Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Shen Liangshu was stunned. How did his appearance change? What's this? What happened? See, Wuya shuddered as he looked at Lu Zhou. It was not surprising if the other could not recognize Lu Zhou, but it was impossible for him not to recognize his master. How else could it be but his master standing in front of him? He stammered in a hoarse voice with an incredulous expression on his face, "Ma. Master?" In hindsight, everything was clear. After all, how could there be so many nine-leaf elites showing up all of a sudden? Who else could easily use the Celestial Master's sex talismans? He should have realized this sooner and could not help but lament his stupidity. In fact, the thought that a senior Lu was his master did cross his mind for a fleeting moment, but he quickly dismissed that thought since the old man did not resemble his master at all. Huang Shijie, who was in shock, quickly bowed. "Brother Ji, it's you. Well met, well met. You changed." Conk smiled. Hua Chengyang's reaction was similar to Shen Liangshu. He stumbled back and fell on his butt. He was inwardly beating himself for bringing a wolf into the sheep's den earlier. Even worse, now he found out he had brought the Patriarch of the Evil Sky Pavilion here? What was happening? Everyone was stunned. They felt as though they were having a mental breakdown. Lu Zhou could tell he had reverted to his true appearance. His beard had grown longer. He did not pay attention to everyone's shocked expressions. He only said indifferently, "It's only an insignificant skill." Out of everyone present, the person who was most shocked was none other than Zhenghai, who was standing behind Lu Zhou. His eyes widened in shock, and he felt as though he had been slapped a few times. His eyelids twitched uncontrollably. He asked in a tentative and respectful tone, "Master, it's you?" A hint of reluctance and incredulity could be heard in his voice as well. Before Lu Zhou replied, he turned tail and ran without saying another word. "I should run." Swoosh. Zhenghai sped toward the forest. It was exhausting to run without primal chi. He was physically tired, but more than that, he was mentally tired. To think that old geezer even knows how to alter his appearance. Why didn't I think of that? He vanished among the trees in just a blink of an eye. The others were dumbfounded. Hua Chengyang and his subordinates were stunned as well. Was this still their majestic and impressive sect master? Everything happened too quickly. The others could not keep up with the turn of events. Lu Zhou did not pursue Zhenghai. Instead, he beckoned at Miss Conk. "Conk." The song. Miss Conk seemed to enjoy the feeling of being useful. She brought the flute to her lips at once. The melodious and familiar tune filled the air. Sound was, naturally, faster than a human running. Without his cultivation base, Zhenghai could not have outrun sound even though his physique was superior to ordinary humans. Deep within the dark forest, many pairs of glowing green eyes appeared. Zhenghai immediately stopped in his tracks. Even without his primal chi and cultivation base, he did not think much of these vicious beasts. He said in a deep voice, "Get lost." Some of the weaker beasts did not dare to approach him. On the contrary, the strongest beasts continued to advance on him. Beasts were beasts, after all. In their eyes, humans were one of the most delicious food in the world. The beasts pounced at Zhenghai. Boom. 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 Zhenghai swung his fists wildly as fought the wild beasts. Lu Zhou and the others heard the sounds of fighting from the forest. However, he did not seem bothered by it. He looked at everyone and said, "He deserves it." Shen Liangshu was close to tears. He prostrated himself on the ground at once and said, "Old Senior Ji. You. Why do you have to do this? This was not funny at all." Shen Liangshu wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He was in much pain. If old Senior Ji could alter his appearance, why did he spend so much effort to memorize the appearances of the features of the members of the Evil Sky Pavilion? How meaningless. You're moved. Lu Zhou looked down at Shen Liangshou. How could Shen Liangshou not be moved? He was so moved that he nearly cried. Smack. Smack. Shen Liangshou began to slap himself. The others sighed inwardly at the sight. This served as a reminder for them not to judge someone by their appearances in the future. Meanwhile, the melodious sound of the flute did not stop. The moonlight was getting brighter. Wuya glanced at the dark and thick forest. He suppressed the shock in his heart and said, "Master, I'm worried eldest senior brother's life will be in danger if we don't rescue him soon." It doesn't matter. Lu Zhou shook his head. You underestimate him. Inwardly, he thought to himself, he's tougher than a bull when he fought me earlier. If Zhenghai could not even withstand the attacks of these wild beasts, it would be the biggest joke ever. Wuya gulped before he said, "Master, you could have just come if you have business with him." Why? Lu Zhou felt it was a waste of time to answer this question. The answer was obvious: if he did not alter his appearance, Zhenghai would have run off at the get-go before he even came knocking. If he could meet Zhenghai, how was he supposed to capture him? Wuya realized his question was redundant, therefore, he no longer asked. Lu Zhou raised his hand and said, "Conk." Oh. Conk stopped playing. Lu Zhou gave Conk an admiring look. It was a shame this young girl could not control her own talents. However, there was no rush. He could slowly nurture her if she decided to cultivate in the future. If she's someone the Taishu Academy and Hanku branch want as a disciple, should I accept her as my disciple as well? Prior to this, Lu Zhou had never thought about accepting any more disciples. However, now that he thought about it, it did not seem like a bad idea. At this moment, Huang Shiji cupped his fists and said, "I didn't expect this young girl to be this gifted. She'll certainly become someone great if she's taught well in the future." Huang Shiji thought about the 9 disciples of the Evil Sky Pavilion. They were already outrageously talented. Now, another genius was likely to join the Evil Sky Pavilion. He lamented the unfairness of the heavens and wondered when the Penglai sect be graced with some quality disciples. Nevertheless, he could only grumble inwardly. How would he dare to verbalize his thoughts? Lu Zhou looked at Conk with a satisfied expression. In any case, this matter was not important now. He had to deal with the matter at hand first. Boom. 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 The sound of fighting resonated from the forest before it abruptly stopped. Lu Zhou looked at Wuya and pushed with his palm out before a palm seal shot towards Wuya. In just an instant, Wuya felt the mantra on him had been lifted. Overjoyed, he said, "Thank you, Master." He rose to his feet immediately, preparing to help Zhenghai. Wait. Master? Do you remember what I've said? Lu Zhou asked. I do. In that case, have no regrets. I won't. Wuya bowed at Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou waved his sleeve. Wuya understood what Lu Zhou meant. He turned around and flew into the forest. In truth, Lu Zhou had long known the decision Wuya would make. At the end of the day, as their master, he would have to let them go out to the world and learn on their own. Children needed to be given the independence to explore once they come of age. What would the consequences be? Nobody knew. Whether they would succeed or fail, it was all a part of life. Shortly after, Wuya returned with Zhenghai on his back. Zhenghai was covered in bruises and bumps, unconscious. At this moment, Lu Zhou looked at Zhenghai. Name, Zhenghai. Identity, Wuqian, human. Realm, nascent divinity tribulation realm. If it were not for the appearance alteration card, it would have been practically impossible for him to meet Zhenghai, judging by how quickly he had run earlier. Everyone sighed in relief. Compared to an unfamiliar 9-leaf expert who appeared out of nowhere, the disciples of the Nether Sect and Penglai Sect preferred to face Ji Tiandao. After all, he was the master of the sect master of the Nether Sect master. This meant, in a way, he was in the same camp, right? Zhou brought Conk back into the Great Hall through the hole in the wall. The others followed. Hua Chongyang patted Shen Liangshou's shoulders and said, "Are you coming?" Shen Liangshou said after looking up, "Go on ahead. I'll slap myself a few more times to hammer it into my memories." "Suit yourself." Hua Chongyang felt regretful and helpless as well. If it were not for him, the old senior would not be here at all. However, at this juncture, there was no other way but to plow on. Hua Chongyang entered the Great Hall. Si Wuya was still carrying Zhenghai as he said, "Master, eldest senior brother is injured. I'll take him back." Zhou extended a palm. A palm seal struck him. Si Wuya, initially, thought his master intended to strike him. However, after a while, he discovered his master had merely lifted the mantra that suppressed Zhenghai's cultivation base. "Thank you, master." Si Wuya left the Great Hall through the main entrance with Zhenghai on his back and headed to the resting room. Inside the room, Si Wuya tossed Zhenghai on the bed. He said with a sigh, "I've already told you that master isn't a simple character, but you wouldn't listen." As he spoke, he flipped his palm and channeled some of his primal chi into Zhenghai's body. Si Wuya continued to say, "You should be grateful that master is the one who showed up today. If it were some other nine-leaf cultivator, do you think he would have been satisfied with Jing province alone?" After channeling his primal chi into Zhenghai's extraordinary 8 meridians, Si Wuya was baffled. "There are no internal injuries?" "Forget it, you aren't so cowardly back then. Even the young lady's tune could subdue you." Then, he said with a sigh, "Here lies the great sect master of the Nether Sect." After sensing Zhenghai's condition had stabilized, Si Wuya rose to his feet and left the room, closing the door behind him. The room was plunged into darkness immediately. Zhenghai's eyes snapped open immediately in the darkness, and he sat up straight. His heart was thumping wildly in his chest. He stood up and walked to the door. Then, he fell to the ground and tried to peek through the narrow slit before he patted his chest. Soon after, he returned to the bed and sat down slowly with a soft sigh. "I didn't want to do this as well." He tried to circulate the primal chi inside his Dantian sea of chi. He was surprised and puzzled to find that his cultivation base was no longer restricted. However, he was still cautious and did not recklessly circulate his primal chi. The 9-leaf stage was no laughing matter. Zhenghai laid down, acting as though he was asleep. Inside the Great Hall, Zhou looked at everyone. For a long while, nobody said anything. At this moment, Si Wuya walked into the Great Hall. "Greetings, master," Si Wuya said with a bow, "Eldest senior brother's condition has stabilized." Zhou looked at Si Wuya. Knowing Si Wuya had made up his mind, he asked again, "You're determined to take down Jing province?" Si Wuya fell to his knees immediately. "Master. Currently, Jing province city is an impregnable fortress. Eldest senior brother is at his wit's end. I proposed we lay siege on the city with vicious beasts." At this juncture, everyone glanced at Miss Conk who was seated at the side. "That's a good idea, but, do you know how much primal chi and how high one's cultivation base are needed to control these beasts?" Conk isn't a cultivator. Conk. Although Si Wuya had guessed this young lady was the person who understood the tongue of beasts, he was not aware that she was not a cultivator. It was not enough for her to know the tongue of beasts. When the beasts fought, they could be easily frightened by powerful cultivators if nobody spurred them on. He looked at Conk with a slightly shocked expression. "She isn't a cultivator?" Then, he shook his head and said with a sigh, "In that case, we can only think of another way." "When Shu can't be easily dealt with," Zhou said. Naturally, Si Wuya knew Wen Shu was not a simple character whom they could easily defeat. At this moment, Huang Shiji cupped his fists and said, "I sympathize with Sect Master Yu. The Penglai sect is willing to lend a helping hand to the Nether Sect." Zhou looked at Huang Shiji. Huang Shiji was startled. I'm not asking for anything in return. I'm purely helping a friend. Nobody believed him. However, Zhou replied, all right. Zhou stood up, looked at the night scene, and said, see Wuya. Yes, master. Zhou infused some primal qi into his voice and said loudly, I'll give him 6 months. After 6 months, whether he succeeds or fails, he has to be brought to me, dead or alive. Yes, master. Ding. Discipline you Zhenghai. Reward, 200 merit points. Based on this, it was obvious Zhenghai was only feigning unconsciousness. In fact, Zhou had no plans of dragging Zhenghai back to the mountain with him this time. The Nether Sect was ready to carry out their plan. Zhenghai was too far into his quest to conquer the divine capital to turn back now. Moreover, Wuya had also made his choice. As their master, he had to be reasonable. As for the matters between master and disciples, he decided to leave it at the back of his mind for now. Rascal, why are you playing dead for when I punched you so softly? Zhou raised a hand and said, Conk. Conk slid off her chair and nimbly walked to Zhou's side. I want to take you back to the evil sky pavilion. Will you come with me? Upon hearing this, Wuya was shocked. He asked, Master, are you accepting another disciple? It had been more than 5 years. It had been a long time since Ji Tiandao last accepted a disciple. He did not expect his master to accept a disciple now. If the evil sky pavilion opened its doors, throngs of people would swarm there. Who knows? Zhou said ambiguously. When Huang Shiji and the others saw that Zhou was leaving, they stood up. Master, it's getting late. Why don't you spend a night here and leave tomorrow? Wuya asked. Ding. Disciplined Zhenghai. Reward, 200 merit points. That rascal is truly a rascal. He doesn't want me to stay here. At this moment, Conk grabbed Zhou's arm and happily, I'll go to the evil sky pavilion. Zhou turned to look at Conk and said, what if we stay here for a month? Ding. Disciplined Zhenghai. Reward, 200 merit points. This time, Conk did not nod, but she did not reject the idea as well. Zhou could see she would rather not stay here. Forget it. Zhou took Conk's hand and was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something. The Darknet's information network covers the lands under the heavens. Does that include the western regions where the other tribes live? Wuya replied confidently, I dare not boast, but it's the truth. In that case, use every resource at your disposal to locate a woman with the surname Luo, Zhou said. 300 years ago, Yuan'er Luo became the leader of the 3 sects because of her help. Yes, master. Said Wuya with a bow. When Huang Shiji heard this, he exclaimed in shock, a woman with the surname Luo. 300 years ago? Zhou looked at Huang Shiji. You've heard of her? Huang Shiji nodded and said, it just so happens that I have.